Hey y'all, thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, I am going to do a Bible study on Ruth 1, 20, and 21. I hope you enjoy. Some of the supplies I am using are the binder that I made, my Life Application Study Bible, watercolor paper, tissue paper from the Dollar Tree, some scrap papers, maybe some of these tags, stickers, of course, some from the Dollar Tree, some I ordered on Amazon, some more sketch paper, and printouts of the verses in several different translations and printout of commentaries that I found. I am going with a pink and black theme, so I grabbed a handful of markers. I also grabbed my lettering markers, and I get to work first reading and highlighting the different translations, and I printed them all out here side by side so that I can read and compare and look at the differences and see what I can learn from each translation and how they relate to each other, how they differ from each other. The main point of this is to study the Word and try to get the best understanding that you absolutely can. I am focusing on Ruth 1, 20, and 21, and I will read out of my Christian Standard Bible. "Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara," she answered, "for the Almighty has made me very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has opposed me, and the Almighty has afflicted me?" Moving on to the commentaries, which I did get from Bible Gateway from the free commentaries that they offer. And I am going to start with Eliot's Commentary for English Readers. I will go ahead and read you that now. This is for verse 20. "Call me not Naomi, call me Mara." Here we have one of the constant plays on words and names found in the Hebrew Bible. Naomi, we have already said, means pleasantness, or perhaps strictly my pleasantness. Mara is bitter, as in Exodus 15:23. The latter word has no connection with Miriam or Mary, which is a form of a different root. The Almighty, Shaddai, according to one derivation of the word, he who is all sufficient. All sufficient, the God who gives all things in abundance, is he who takes back. Note Genesis 17:1. Hath dealt very bitterly. Hermar, referring to the preceding Mara. The pleasantness and joys of life are not an end for me. My dear ones who passed away, bitterness and sadness are now my lot. Matthew Henry's concise commentary for Ruth 1, 19 through 22. Naomi and Ruth came to Bethlehem. Afflictions make great and surprising changes in a little time. May God, by his grace, fit us all for such changes, especially the great change. Naomi signifies pleasantness. Mara, bitter or bitterness. She was now a woman of sorrowful spirit. She had come home empty, poor, a widow, and childless. But there is a fullness for believers of which they can never be emptied, a good part which shall not be taken from those who have it. The cup of affliction is a bitter cup, but she owns that that affliction came from God. It well becomes us to have our hearts humbled under humbling providences. It is not affliction itself, but affliction rightly borne, that does us all good. I am just going to read the verses one more time, this time from the Dewey Rames 1899 American edition, because it has things laid out in the verses so that you can understand them just a little bit better. I have never used this translation before today, but I find it helpful. But she said to them, "Call me not Naomi, that is beautiful, but call me Mara, that is bitter. For the Almighty hath quite filled me with bitterness. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me back empty. Why then do you call me Naomi, whom the Lord hath humbled, and the Almighty hath afflicted? Personally, in my life, I have had loss of loved ones, loss of unborn children. These kinds of things have made me bitter. Not so much in a sense to turn away from God, but enough to be simply bitter, filled with emptiness, feeling empty. There's something that has been taken away from me, and I cannot fill that spot. It just makes me bitter. And as a Christian, I know that God can put these things upon us and humble us. We don't know why, or we may know why. I personally know that, sometimes I have not lived my life the way that I should have been living it, and God punishes us. And we have to understand that we cannot just go around living however we want and expect it not to have an effect on our lives. And it will make us bitter. It will make us feel empty, but we cannot turn away from God. We have to understand that the Lord may afflict you. It says in these verses from the Douay-Rheims, whom the Lord hath humbled and the Almighty hath afflicted. In the New American Standard Bible, why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me and the Almighty has afflicted me? Young's literal translation, Jehovah hath testified against me and the Almighty hath done evil to me. The English Standard Version, why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me? New International Version, the Lord has afflicted me and the Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. We don't understand. We may not know exactly why, but we have to turn to the Lord because He is the only one that can fill us back up when we are empty. This is what the first page looks like. I'm just going to add some more stickers to it. I used the tissue paper in the same technique in which I use napkins in my Bible journaling. I wanted this to have a nice pretty background behind the scripture and the commentary, and I didn't focus too much on the how of doing this because I really wanted to focus more on the study. So I hope that you guys enjoyed watching the process while I was reading and discussing a little bit of my personal view on these verses and life situations. For the second part of this study, I just flipped over my watercolor paper and now I'm working on the back. I wanted to add a little bit of art. It is just a simple silhouette line drawing of a face of a woman with a tear falling down her cheek to represent Naomi and the fact that she wanted the people to call her Mara because she is bitter and she came home empty. I first drew this with pencil and now I'm going over it with a black Micron pen just to make sure that it stands out more. I'm not getting extremely elaborate with this. I'm just using a small amount of artwork, and I'm gonna add some of this scrap paper that I got in a paper pack from the Dollar Tree, using double-sided tape on the back to secure it in place underneath the face that I drew. And then I'm just gonna embellish it with a few little stickers and just make it a little bit more fun. Using my brush tip calligraphy markers, I am just going to put a little bit of pretty lettering here. Now, I am not the best at this. My lettering is not really that great, and that's fine, but the more I do it, the better I'll get. So don't judge me too harshly. I'm dividing these two sections with some cute washi tape. One side is mainly just for the art. This other side is going to be where I write a little bit more of the scripture and where I write down some of the understanding that I have, as well as a prayer to God. The most art I'm going to do on this side is washi tape and lettering. And here, my beautiful friends, is the final finished product of this Bible study. You can pause the video here if you would like to stop and take a closer look at it, but this is just a quick overview. I am so glad that you stopped by to watch this video. If you have any questions, please comment down below and I will answer to the best of my ability. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye, y'all.